Happy New Year, everyone! And in today's episode of the Giraldo Show, we're going to be discussing Ricky Gervais and his roasts and the Golden Globes last night, and some autopsy reports and new revelations on the Jeffrey Epstein story, and how Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to the Giraldo Show. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Giraldo Show. I am your host, Sebastian Giraldo. Oh man, it's great to be back after a kind of a long holiday break. I had an incredible time at the Student Action Summit, met a ton of incredible people, gave out hopefully a lot of business cards, talked to a lot of really important people. All of that is on my Instagram at The Giraldo Show on Instagram, and then also follow my Twitter at Giraldo Show. All of my pictures with people such as Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Alex Clark, Flecka's Talks, all of those pictures are on my Instagram post, so go ahead and check those out. Great time in Miami and great time in Orlando, but we are back and we're going to be talking politics as we usually are. And I also want to talk a little bit beforehand about some goals that I want to have for this 2020 year. I really want to try to get to 1,000 downloads at least by the end of February. I know that seems like it's 2 months away, so I probably will hit that goal, but I just want to get to a great goal. And then hopefully I'll be able to really start expanding. Hopefully by the time I hit September of this year of 2020, I'll have, let's shoot for around 10,000 downloads. I'm going to try my hardest to make my content as great, as funny, as kind of original and refreshing as possible. So 10,000 downloads by September, the 1 year mark, that would be incredible. I just want to hit a high mark, hopefully get some of my first interviews of the year, and it's just going to be a great year. Going to be a great year, hopefully a great decade. I mean, I'm turning 19 on Saturday, so that's going to be great. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of the stories. So, obviously, the Golden Globes was last night. For those who don't know, the Golden Globes is basically the Oscars, but it's more categorized. The Golden Globes offers rewards for drama and musical/comedy, so they'll have a Best Motion Picture for drama, which was won by 1917, which I think was a war story, and the musical and comedy section of the motion picture story was won by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So they kind of have that, and they also have awards for the TV. So it's pretty much the Oscars and the Emmys kind of put together, categorized like that. And the host for this year was Ricky Gervais, the comedian who has no censor, has no one that he doesn't care who he offends, he just goes off. And I didn't watch the Golden Globes because whenever an award show comes up, you already know there was going to be some politics that are coming up. And we'll talk about one in particular, the Best Actor winner for the dramatic, Joaquin Phoenix, talking about climate change and talking about private airplanes. But Ricky Gervais let off all of the steam. He did not care. He says, if my jokes offend you, too bad. They're jokes. Take a joke, pretty much is what he said. But it's trending on Twitter. It was trending on Twitter last night. I was looking at it, and oh my gosh, the roast that I would see were just whoa. Like, I want to implement something into the episodes where I'm going to try to take audio clips from what I'm referencing and put it into the podcast. So we'll go ahead and start with that right now. Here's Ricky Gervais talking about Apple TV and how he mentioned starting it off with the morning show, which was nominated for a Golden Globe, and he's just talking about the wokeness of some of the people who I think support Apple. Here's the clip.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, yeah. A superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? So
there he is, Ricky Gervais, just really letting off against Apple, Amazon, Disney. And the jokes are just funny. I mean, you have a lot of articles that are coming out being like, oh, he's being so offensive, he's so rude. It's like, come on, he's a comedian. And he made a statement at the end of his speech, which I think is so true. I mean, a lot of actors go up there and he pretty much exposed the people who are winning awards. He's pretty much saying, like, don't use this as a time to push your political statements. Here's a clip of him saying that it's part of the end. It's part of the end of that clip that you heard earlier.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God.
And I mean, it's so true. You don't have to use your winning an award to push a political statement. Just be grateful that you got the award, and just thank everyone who you want to thank, and just kind of just get off the stage. I mean, I understand, like, this is your time to make a speech, but Ricky Gervais is right. I mean, he had a clip, I don't know if I'll be able to find it, where he says, like, most of you have spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg, who is notorious for missing. I think she has the record for most missed days in school by this point. But it's so true. These actors, they're actors. They're not political. They don't major in political science. They probably just listen to CNN and they get their news from that, and that's how they spew out all of this climate change hysteria, that the world's going to end in 10 years if you don't stop using private jets, how Trump is the worst human being alive. I mean, you're actors and actresses. Just stick to your craft. It would make it so much better. Movie producers, listen up. Just stick to making a good script. Don't just start putting in all these woke things. I was recently reading an article about Marvel, who was going to put in their first transgender superhero. Why is that necessary? I mean, just make a superhero movie. That's what we're interested in. Don't throw in all this wokeness. I don't need all that. It's going to make the story so much worse, in my opinion. I watched Captain Marvel, and I was like, whoa, if this didn't have so much wokeness poured into it, it would be a pretty decent movie. But no, it was just talking about the empowerment of women, which I agree with. I think women are extraordinarily powerful, and they should be powerful. But when you're just pushing it, being like, I can do all this by myself, it was like the scene in Avengers Endgame. If for those who've seen it, at this point, it's spoiler free. I'll spoil it for you guys. If you haven't seen it at this point, it's your own fault. There's a scene in there where Brie Larson's Captain Marvel has to take the Infinity Gauntlet to back in time, and then Spider-Man's like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to do this, Captain Marvel, and then all the women are like, we can do it together. I think it was the worst scene, not only because it was just kind of like, I feel like it was just thrown in there at the end, but Captain Marvel literally 10 minutes before blew through the biggest ship that Thanos had without even blinking. Do you think that she needs help? And even in that scene, she just literally just like goes at supersonic speed and blasts through. If it weren't for Thanos, she would have gotten there without the help of all of these other women characters. I mean, it was a bit, in my opinion, it was a bit ridiculous. And then Ricky Gervais, he in the Golden Globes, the speech, it was just funny. I mean, let's just be honest. It's like the Dave Chappelle thing. There's a lot of jokes in there that you might find offensive, but they're jokes. Take a joke for once, Hollywood left. This segment's already running a little bit long, so I'll just shorten the Joaquin Phoenix thing. He got up, he won the Best Actor for the drama for his portrayal of Arthur Fleck, or Joker. Obviously, I think he deserves it. I think he should win the Oscar for that as well, because I think he was just an incredible actor. And he went on the stage to push his whole climate change activism thing, saying, next time when you come to these award shows, don't go on your private jets. Something like that. I didn't really watch the Golden Globes. I saw the clips. That's pretty much all I'll get into in terms of that. But I think the biggest story that's recently come out has been with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, obviously, Ricky Gervais had a Jeffrey Epstein joke in the show, but it looks like we have some autopsy reports from Jeffrey Epstein. I know I saw this on Twitter last night from Benny Johnson, who is just the funniest guy. I met him at the Student Action Summit. He is pretty much the meme guy at Turning Point USA. He's just hilarious, and he tweeted out all these pictures, and I saw this suicide note that Jeffrey Epstein apparently had. I'll go ahead and read to you what I found. This article is from the Daily Wire, so let's go ahead and see. The pictures are they're gruesome. I can't really put it on a podcast because it's audio only, but I'll try to my best to kind of describe it. So CBS News' 60 Minutes reported never-before-seen images inside Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell where he was found dead and showed photographs that were taken of Epstein's body during his autopsy. While showing the photos, 60 Minutes said there are dozens of photos taken by the medical examiner's office that day. On the floor, a mattress and piles of sheets. Several nooses that appear to be fashioned from the orange bed lines are laid out, his medicines photographed but no body. 60 Minutes host Sharon Alfonsi asked Epstein's lawyer, Dr. Michael Baden, is there a photograph of when he was found dead in the cell? Baden responded by saying no, there's no photograph taken of Mr. Epstein in the cell. Alfonsi asked, do you think there was foul play here? The forensic evidence released so far, including autopsy, point much more to murder and strangulation than the suicide and suicidal hanging, Baden responded. I hesitate to make a final opinion until all evidence is in. 60 Minutes later revealed that federal prison protocols were not followed in response to Epstein's death because they took his dead body to the emergency room rather than leave him where he was. All of this pretty much is saying what the joke is finally become real. Epstein did not kill himself. It looks like the autopsy came out saying that he was murdered. He was at least died of strangulation from wire. Murder and strangulation rather than suicide and suicidal hanging. Steven Crowder had a good video where he live streamed himself trying to do the Jeffrey Epstein thing, and he only got to the required pressure to break his neck when someone helped him out. So that was a good example, but I mean, the autopsy is just a lot more official. Bureau of Prisons protocol mandates a suicide scene should be treated with the same level of protection as any crime scene in which a death has occurred. 60 Minutes reviewed hundreds of graphic photographs from the autopsy of Jeffrey Epstein and inside his cell. There are two nooses, a bit of orange sheet tied to the grate of a window. On the top bunk, bottles and medicines stand upright. Below it, another piece of fabric is tied through a hole on the bed about 4 feet from the ground. Sources told 60 Minutes that a second camera inside the tier, the one that could have seen Epstein's cell door and the doors of other inmates, was not working that night. Coincidental, obviously. Right? I mean, it's just a coincidence, man. The camera just happened to cut out when Epstein was killing himself. I mean, come on, give me a break. 60 Minutes recovered a note from inside Epstein's prison cell that stated, quote, this is the suicide note that Jeffrey Epstein put out. There was a name that was blurred out, but it kept saying, kept me in a locked shower stall for 1 hour. Another prison guard sent me burnt food, giant bugs crawling over my hands. No fun. That doesn't really sound like a suicide note to me, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, I could be wrong. I've never written a suicide note. I've never really seen a real-life suicide note, but that just seems like a complaint rather than a suicide note. I could be wrong, but that's just what it sounds like to me. Baden said that if the prison was really convinced that Epstein was suicidal, that they would not have allowed him to have a ballpoint pen because it could be used as a weapon to hurt himself or someone else. But they allowed the sheets and the wire that was used to kill for Epstein to kill himself. I mean, it's just so weird. I mean, the situation's always been weird, but like now that all of this autopsy and all this information is coming out, I mean, you can clearly see the shady stuff that was happening. The question really is now, who killed Epstein? But that's a story for another day. 60 Minutes noted that Epstein had a sleep apnea machine in his cell, which featured a long electrical cord that he could have used to hang himself. Baden said that the broken bones in Epstein's neck, combined with the things he deemed as being problematic with the noose that investigators said was used, pointed to a potential homicide. Baden said, quote, there were fractures of the right thyroid cartilage and the left hyoid bone. This is an autopsy photo of Epstein's broken hyoid bone, a U-shaped bone that sits under the jaw that part of the tongue attaches to. The thyroid cartilage sits at the front of the neck. I've never seen 3 fractures like this in a suicidal hanging. Sometimes there's a fracture of the hyoid bone or a fracture of the thyroid cartilage, but not 3, Alfonsi asked. Baden responded by saying very unusual to have 2 and not 3, and going over 1,000 jail hangings, suicides in the New York State prisons over the past 40, 50 years, no one has had 3 fractures. Again, odd information there. Epstein didn't kill himself. Let's just finish it off right there. There's a little bit more to the article, but it's just more quotes pretty much saying, like, this is pretty much a homicide. It wasn't really a suicide. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of the changes. I'm trying to make it a little bit more energetic and fun. And obviously, this episode will be released at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so go ahead and convert that to wherever. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, because the podcast is probably on there. And I'll go ahead and I'll see you tomorrow. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to The Giraldo Show.